Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to TeslaTech 2017, the Extraordinary Technology Conference. This morning, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Byington Sims. I have a little bio that I'd like to read about Byington. Byington has a genius mind. From an early childhood, he had difficulties fitting in and resisted all brainwashing of mediocrity. When he was 20, he had several art exhibitions, and some of these sculptures are still in display in a museum in Tallahassee, Florida, where he grew up. He invented his first machine called the Tensor. He was fascinated by the works of Tesla, Heisenberg, Einstein, Bob Beck, and Royal Raymond Rife, and no electrical device or machinery is safe from his inquisitive mind. When he contracted MRSA in 2006, he invented the portable galvanic bath and discovered it not only helped him, but so far many people with chronic diseases like arthritis, fibromyalgia, Lyme's disease, abscesses, kidney infection, and prostate problems. He's an associate with the Brisbane Research Institute and the Advanced Magnets Research Institute in Tucson, where he found the scientific proof that the galvanic bath is effective, which he will be talking about in his lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, Byington Sims.
Okay, well, I discovered this back in 2000 when I injured my finger, and it got badly infected. I didn't take care of it when I should have, because I was busy with this project. And so I went to the emergency room, and they said, you got osteomyelitis, you're going to lose part of your finger. You know, it was gray-green and smelling. You know, it's got, obviously gangrene was starting in it. And so on the way home, it just flashed on the scene from a sci-fi movie, and I thought, well, I got to try this, you know. And so when I got home, I took a bucket of water and some wire and a 12-volt battery and a stainless steel spoon and a hook to the positive and a piece of copper pipe hooked to the negative, and submerged my hand in the bucket, and you know the abscess just oozed gently out, painlessly, just tingled a little bit. And 20 minutes later, it was a normal color and size, and I could hardly believe my eyes when I saw this. That you know, this thing just sucked gangrene out of my finger in 20 minutes. Why isn't this known about? And so I've added another device to the ElectroMedicine. You know, it all started with Tesla, and then the violet ray machine was simply a argon gas-filled tube hooked to a Tesla coil, and Lakowski's multi-wave oscillator, same thing, a special antenna hooked to a Tesla coil. And then I've got a little device, a cold plasma, which is also a Tesla coil in a box, little small box. It was a CRT supply from a computer, and I put resistors in there to reduce the current, so it wouldn't be a shock hazard. And I can burn moles off with it. It'll disinfect surface wounds and whatnot. And so I've used that quite a bit. Now the galvanic, so quack, what America used to know, a lot of electricity and a little bit of water could kill you, while a lot of water and a little electricity will heal you. It's amazing how many people, when I mention electricity and water together, they just freak and won't even give it a try. You know, and I say, well, it's only a little bit of electricity and water. That won't hurt you. So Dr. Trout, the first woman doctor in Canada, used this technology back in 1875. She opened up a clinic to treat arthritis and various other things. And if you can Google galvanic bath, and that'll be on the first listing of websites, you'll see that article. So when I invented the portable galvanic bath, the one that she used is a clinical model where each limb is in a separate bath, and you sit your body sits on a chair, and your arms and legs are in separate bath units, and it's not portable at all. And those are on the market. You can see those on the Galvanic bath pages too. They're for sale. They got brand new machines for sale, but nobody else has the portable. Mine is very small. You can take it anywhere, and you can use it in the hot tub, hot spring, bathtub, or any body of water. You can use it. When I contacted MRSA in 2006, I guess I was crazy enough to try it, and so I, crazy enough to mix electricity and water, and it took, and I had to put the anode pretty far away because it was an open wound. It really burns pretty hard in the water. I call that a bite, where it's pulling really hard. That's when it's biting. And when you go over an area where no problem, you won't feel anything. But when you, like a knee joint or an achy joint, it'll bite, and it'll usually provoke like an achy sensation. But you just back it off into the water and wait till it pulls enough out you can bring it closer. In most cases, the pain will be gone right after that, and will stay away for a long time. So when I use this on my MRSA, I tried first using a foot pad and a wet pad over the injury, but that didn't really work. It slowed it down. It kept it from getting bigger, but it didn't get rid of it. But then, my partner Dorit reminded me to, get in the hot tub with it and try it. And so I did that, and I just rigged something up with a battery and 2 electrodes. And when I got in the water and did it, it made a huge difference. At first it burned like crazy, and so I had to put the anode off at a distance and wait. It took me 2 hours to bring it all the way down close to my body. But it pulled the core and everything out into the water. I darkened the water a good bit with that, and it completely cured it. But then I still had something circulating. I could feel kind of foggy-headed and funky, and so I got this flyer in the mail from this company producing supplements, and they had a flyer advertising their probiotics, and they had pictures of live blood cell pictures of before and after. If you use it on an empty stomach, it cleans the blood. And so I tried it, and that cleaned all the MRSA that was circulating out in my blood, so all that cleared up and it never came back. And so I was really happy about that, because I didn't want to go to the doctor. I've seen what that does to people, and they go to the hospital, they'll cut a huge chunk of flesh out of a person's leg and leave this big, huge scar, and it's a long recovery, where mine was done in a matter of a couple of hours. And it never came back. Oh, yeah. Okay, this Scientific American produced an article, the article Shock Medicine by Professor Kevin Tracy, president of the Feinstein Institute for Medical Research at North Shore Wealth System in Manchester, New York, where he just directs the Laboratory of Biomedical Science, as well as being a professor of molecular medicine and neurosurgery. So it's a very interesting article. You should read it. Where the galvanic bath is used today, if you Google galvanic bath on the internet, you'll find the premier spa in Bucharest, and they show a picture of it where they use the original one that Dr. Trout used. It's very exciting to us that this article verified the research from Aquatronics the Bisbee Research Institute about the galvanic bath. The galvanic bath was invented in 2006 to deal with a MRSA problem where no other solution worked. And I was my own guinea pig. All right. And then there's a spa in New York City. I was surprised to see that because I thought this would not be approved or allowed in this country. But apparently they were able to declare it as a non-medical device and use it for detoxing. Because it detoxes far beyond any other method because the toxins don't go through the liver and kidneys to be processed out of the body. They go right into the water. And sometimes it can color the water. Oh, and there's a Kind Care Medical Center in Dubai, in New York, and then there's, and then we have the Magnetic Research Institute in Tucson that's using it. I introduced it to the doctor there, and he has these huge magnets that go from the floor to the ceiling with a bed that goes between the north and south poles, and he's able to regenerate stroke damage, regrow knee joints without surgery, and it's amazing what he can do with those magnets. And then when you use the galvanic bath in conjunction with it, the galvanic bath takes out the pathogens and the toxins that prevents the body from healing itself in the first place. And then, of course, it accelerates the effect of the magnet, which will finish the healing. So it's very successful and effective. I've tried it on many people, and it works very well. And there's many people in Bisbee and nationwide. People come to demonstrate. I tell people, this is so fantastic, it's almost too good to be true what it does. So I tell people, don't take my word for it, just come and try it out and see for yourself what it does. And we've had people, with kidney infections, like gallbladder or bladder infection, and pain of arthritis, Lyme disease, abscess teeth, fibromyalgia, and it worked on every one of those. We also saved a man's leg from being amputated in Florida. He heard about us and ordered a machine, had 2 weeks before his surgery. He used it and got rid of the infection, and the doctors canceled his surgery. And this is after 3 years of fighting this infection, and they gave up, just going to chop his leg off. And so he used it, and when he went for his final checkup, the doctors couldn't find any infection and canceled the surgery, and he's still got his leg. I'd really like to know if anybody knows of anything else that could do that, and that could actually save a guy's leg that far gone. And if anybody, let me know. I'd sure want to see it. Now, the science behind why this works is that your body's in between the anode and the cathode. The anode pulls the current. The source is the cathode, and so you got this stream of electrons flowing through the body, and it breaks the free radical bonds, and then it releases them into the water rather than going to your liver and kidneys. So you can detox at a far deeper level than any other way. And it also will accelerate the effect of these other detox systems that you can use that in conjunction with it, and it'll make those work better too. It'll maybe help break even a little more stuff loose. Now, unlike the foot bath, you all probably know about, the foot bath just has this little array of the anode and cathode are in this little ball-like thing, and you're not in the path of the current, but it does release the it ionizes the water and releases the toxins that accumulate in the bottom of your feet. But the galvanic bath, your whole body's in the water and in between the anode and cathode, and you're pulling toxins out from everywhere, not just your feet. And I say it makes it far more effective. And then I have other inventions that I did back when I was in my 20s. The high tension shielded anode, I called it tensor for short. And I would use that. You could sleep with that on all night. Very subtle. You didn't hardly feel anything. You might feel a very slight tingling sensation, but it was soothing. And it would relieve arthritic painful joints, and the next day it would be relieved. And it would last for 2 or 3 days. But you'd sleep on it every night. You couldn't overdo it. It wasn't. It was actually picoamp currents. It was very small. And I used this on a guy when we were living on an old mining camp outside of Tucson, Arizona. And he smashed the end of his finger just down to the bone. I mean, the fingernail actually fell on the ground and the flesh just divided into 2 parts and the bone sticking out in the middle. And he I took him to the VA hospital, and they said, come back tomorrow, we'll amputate it for you. And they didn't even really clean it out, because we went back home to the camp, and I got a bucket of water, and I put the high-tension shielded anode in the water, and then he put his hand in there, and it took like 3 days for the dead flesh and everything to fall off, and just the bone sticking out. And 2 months it took for the finger to grow completely back. The bone just got wider and wider until it filled out and made a whole fingerprint. The fingerprint, everything was perfect. You couldn't tell anything had ever happened. And then he ended up injuring his head. He banged his head on a pipe or something when he's doing a job for somebody. He took him to the hospital, and the same people, this is only a few months later, and the same people saw him come in there, and they noticed his finger was completely healed, and they wondered how he did it. And he started to explain it, but then the senior staff hushed everything up and said, go back to work, we don't want to talk about it. So I would have taken it in there and let them do research on it if they were interested, but they weren't, so I just let that go. And then I've got another device, the Ionic Nebulizer, that I take a standard medical nebulizer and put a wire with 20,000 volts with enough resistance on it so it eliminates the shock hazard. And then you inhale the mist. And I took out bronchitis with that. And also a friend of ours had bronchitis that she was struggling with for a couple of weeks, and it took that away. So that's good for treating the lungs, because the lungs are air sacs, so the galvanic bath doesn't penetrate through the lungs. But the Ionic Nebulizer does reach the inside of the lungs, and it's very effective. And then I got another little thing that it makes a plasma arc, and there again I limited the current so the shock is gone, and you can burn off moles and treat little small like bug bites and stuff. It's very good for that. And then I also built a version of Rife machines. I'm using the same plasma ball that Rife actually used, the same design. And it's proved to be very effective, even more so than some of the other machines on the market that use a different plasma tube. And I've got a table out there with all these things there on the table. And we can... let's see, where's the picture for the, I need this. Here, I'll show you a picture of this 75-year-old lady it was treating. And this is what, can you switch to this? Oh, Oh, we want a projector. I have this on the... There. Yeah. There. So this is the hot tub, and this is the bottom. You can see this mustard colored. So that's an inch deep. And then the 75-year-old lady treated for an hour to get that. And she darkened the water so dark you couldn't see the bottom of the tub. And then I put this clarifier that you can buy at the swimming pool supply. And you put that in the water, let it settle overnight. And that's what the water is real crystal clear, and it just puts all the dissolved solids in the bottom. And then I siphon that out and then just put a little bit of water back in. And here's me. I treated my head and got this black sediment out of the black stuff, but not very deep. But it's curious what that is. I mean, you just pull it right out of my head, and it could be heavy metals or whatever. And we've treated people with fibromyalgia. Oh, they darkened the tub pretty good, more than once. And it took 6 weeks for this lady with a severe fibromyalgia, treating every 2 or 3 days. She was one of the few people to get a Herxheimer reaction because she was so toxic. The first treatment made her feel like a little flu-like symptom. She said, well, this is what I felt like when I first got the problem. But then after she treated another few times, that all went away. And then she started feeling better and better, less pain everywhere. And after 6 weeks, she was almost done. So she bought a machine, took it home, and continued to use it for a while until it was completely cleared up. And the problem never came back. And she's got a new lease on life. Before she's almost bedridden. She never left the house or doing. She's always in so much pain every day. And after she treated and got rid of the pain, then she did yoga classes. She had a new lease on life. And I can't think of anything else that could have done that. And the doctor sure couldn't help anything. There had been this bunch of different doctors, and none of them could offer anything that worked. Now we need the picture of Dr. Trout.
I had it, but the system was changed. Okay, this can go now. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So I got still 36 minutes. Oh yeah, this is the original galvanic bath setup. See the bath chambers, the feet, the legs in there, and the hands, arms are in there, and there's the power supply. Look how big that thing is on the wall. And that's patented, and that's still used. This system's still used today. And then they also have a bathtub. You can find all that on the galvanic bath pages. If you Google galvanic bath, you'll see this. This will be on the first list, and with the article explaining what the history of it when she opened the clinic in 1875. And when I first started using it, I called it electrolytic bath because it is electrolysis, but you Google that, you don't find anything. It's mostly industrial uses like electroplating and whatnot. And believe it or not, the galvanic bath, when you send silverware to get electroplated, first they put it in a vat as a stripper. And that's what the galvanic bath essentially is, the stripper. It's a brute force machine that strips all the toxins right out of the body. And then when they do that, then they put it in another vat to put new plating on new silver on the silverware. And also, there's all these microcurrent devices, use frequency and whatnot. Those it even enhance those after you've stripped all the toxins out of the body and gotten all that junk out of the way. Then the body can heal itself of many things, and then the other microcurrent devices will even work better because there's no toxins to deal with. And usually, if you use, when you use the microcurrent, it'll induce the body to eliminate toxins naturally through the liver and kidneys. So you can only go so fast, otherwise you get a Herxheimer reaction. Let's see. Also, if you get a partial result, that's because part of it may be toxin and the other part may be deficiencies. Well, it won't work if your problem is caused by a deficiency of some kind, so you have to fulfill that deficiency to finish the healing. You know, in some cases it may not work at all. Like if there's a structural problem, a mechanical problem with the body, it won't work on that so much. But inflammation, it works tremendously well against inflammation, which is causing most of the pain from arthritis and whatnot. And the toxins in the body are causing the inflammation. And also some of the toxins will cause the body to not absorb nutrients from your food. And so if you get rid of the toxins, and even if you don't supplement, over time, if you're eating good food, you may fulfill those deficiencies. But I recommend supplementation, especially your minerals. And the vitamins, don't use the synthetic vitamins, they don't work. You should use the whole food processed vitamins. Like, well, one company, Standard Process, does very good supplements. They're some of the best on the market. So you really want to do both. You want to detox, you want to supplement. Also, you can use detoxing herbs as well. And there's a effect, when you use the galvanic bath, there's an effect called electroporation, which increases the absorbability of your nutrients. And so you need to be careful with that if you're doing prescription drugs, because you can OD on a normal dose if you do it right before the bath, but you should wait a couple of hours after you've taken something like that before you do it. Otherwise you could get real sick. And I find that using the galvanic bath eliminates the need of most of these drugs. And I'm 71 years old and don't have a single ache or pain anywhere. If I get one, I treat it, and it's gone for, some of them never come back. But I've noticed that over time, the joints can reaccumulate toxins, and I'll go, I do like once or twice a week because it's general maintenance to keep anything from coming back. Because, we're exposed to so many toxins in the water, the air, the food. And so you can't help but accumulate more. So you have to treat them and get rid of them, keep ahead of it, so that you don't get these degenerative diseases. And if you do have something, you can treat it and get rid of most of it. And let me think what else. Oh, and we have on the website, aquatronicsglobal.com, there's a blog with the guy that treated his leg, saved his leg, and he gives us phone number and emails, so you can actually contact him and he'll tell you his story. And we have another lady, a friend of mine, Janet Shaw, who's a retired nurse. And she had this rare form of cancer that grows these tentacles and strangles her organs, and they don't use radiation chemo on it. They just surgically remove as much as they can, and maybe 10 years later they have to do it again. Well, she's been using it. It locates it and it's shrinking it, and so every time she uses it, it's a little bit smaller. And what's really interesting about this device is it locates where a problem is by the feeling you get. You get a bite. Wherever you get a bite, it means it's pulling hard. And you keep treating it until everything's pulled and you don't have any more bite, and that area is clean. And whatever problems that it caused will clear up. Your body heals itself. The machine doesn't heal anything. The body heals when you get the toxins out of its way. So I'm not claiming this is, I can't really make any claims for the machine itself. All I can say is the body does all the work after the machine has pulled the toxins out. And it's amazing what it does. It's just, I'm not taking, my age, most people my age are taking some pharmaceutical drugs. Well, not me. I won't take that stuff. It's poison. And you read the label on the bottle, and it tells you how bad it is, and yet people still take the crap because they're desperate. And I think this machine has saved my life at least twice. One time I had this sinus infection that smelled like rotten flesh when I blew my nose, and I talked to a couple of friends, told them about it, and they'd say, "Oh, well, that's killing people. That's like MRSA in the sinuses." And I had to, the way I treat it is I dip my face in the water and suck water into my sinuses and put the anode right over my face, and it just cleaned up instantly. No more smell, nothing. And the next day it started to come back again, but not as strong, so I hit it again. And after the third time, it just never came back. It finished it off. That could have killed me right there if I didn't do that. And then another time, the MRSA, I treated myself with the MRSA. That's how I came up with the idea, and then I perfected it. I first had this kind of Flintstone version, just with a battery and a couple of silver electrodes. I was using silver for both the cathode and the anode at that time, and then I later found out, well, the cathode doesn't need to be silver because it accumulates a plaque on it. The anode, however, the silver gets eaten away very slow, very gradually, because it's making colloidal silver in the water as you treat. And it helps to sanitize the water so that any bacteria, anything it pulls out in the water doesn't infect anybody else that might be in there with you. And I have a machine where you can, two people can use it together. One person can use the anode and the other person can use the cathode. Then I have other machines where the cathode is just a stick with wire wrapped around it, where it's like one person use, and that's optional. I've got both setups out there. Does anybody have any questions? 15 minutes.
Come on up to the green square.
Hi. Do I need to move that?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Thank you for sharing your technology with us today. We're really excited that you're here. I wanted to ask you, what kind of experience have you seen or had with funguses?
Well, my friend Janet Shaw tried it on her toenail fungus, and it worked like a champ. But yet on mine, it didn't do that much for mine. So everybody is an individual, and it works. Works different for everybody. And I know that toenail fungus is probably caused by a systemic problem. And maybe there's different other causes of it. I don't know that much about that. But especially good with bacteria. And viruses maybe works indirectly with a virus. Like viruses go after, as well as bacteria go after the toxins that are in the body, and then they'll settle in one area and stay there. And then it's good. It'll pull, if you pull the toxins out, then there's no support, and then they just go away. They can't stay there. The body will fight them off. The only reason the body doesn't fight it off because it's got something in the way. And inflammation, inflammation and pathogens is that's at its best. And like with viruses, it doesn't pull them directly out like it does the bacteria, but if you get the toxins out, and the virus goes away on its own. So it's more indirect with that. And it also, the body uses some of the minerals to help bind to the toxins to get out of the body. So, you need to keep up on your minerals, supplement with minerals when you use it, because you could get even more deficient if you don't. You see, like most people are magnesium deficient, and also iodine deficient. They used to put iodine in the bread mix, but then the government mandated put bromine in instead. Well, bromine takes out your iodine, and leaving people to develop thyroid problems. So this makes a lot of profit for the medical industry. And unfortunately, it's a commercial industry. They've lost sight of the spirit of healing, only to make money, because it's an industry to make the most profit for the shareholders. That's the law. They have to. But it was started on the wrong foot. It should have been started as a non-profit. And there's a mission of healing, because healing isn't as profitable as disease. And that's why, our medical system is pretty sick.
Can you tell me, in a situation with a bacterial infection, once the infection is cleared, how often would the client or the person, how often would they need to resume galvanic treatments after that as a maintenance sort of thing?
Well, many bacterial infections are gone after one treatment. But then, some are a little stubborn, like Lyme disease is pretty stubborn. You don't get rid of that in one day, you have to keep after it. And, well, MRSA, I also continued to work on it. And like when I started out with the injury on just above my knee, the first time, it took 2 hours in the hot tub, and the anode is this far away, and it gradually I'd bring it in, wait for a while because it just hurt too much, and then wait till it pulled enough out of the way, and then I could bring it a little closer and wait and keep on going until I was this close. The next day, I could resume where I left off, and that MRSA just took that completely out. Now, I'd like to know if there's anything else that can do that, because they don't have good antibiotics. Don't work that well on MRSA, and it's 20% fatality. If you go to the hospital, there's a 20% chance you won't live through it. But this is 100% result. If you use a galvanic bath on MRSA, it's going to take it out no matter what. Doesn't matter who you are, it'll get it.
Thank you.
We've got time for one more question.
Currently, there's over 7 billion people with parasites, and I heard you mentioning how it helps with pathogens. Could you expand on that?
Well, it's very good with parasite. One of our first customers bought a machine. She was in India and went in the Ganges River and everything, got these parasites, and she used it on herself and actually pulled this parasite. It would break out and like a fly or something come right out of her skin. And worms would come out of her skull, her scalp and stuff. Yeah, it works on parasites.
Would it work where water supply has been contaminated with pathogens? Could the electricity
I think it would clean the water up. The electricity going through the water would nullify the pathogens in the water. I think you could use it to treat water for drinking. Just put some water in a bucket and put the anode and cathode in there and run it for a while, and it'll put some silver in the water that you could. The silver it has all particulate sizes. The smallest, the smallest particulates do the most good, and you can see a kind of a smoky look coming from the anode in the water. That's the silver coming off. So some of the particulates are large. It doesn't matter. It still sanitizes the water. And then the ionic silver, the tiniest particle, will be driven right into the area you're treating.
Wow. That's a huge. That's huge.
Yes, it is.
They could also do it for wastewater. They can treat it with
You could, yeah.
electricity.
Take
Yeah.
black water and turn it gray.
It would kill all the pathogens in the water, for sure. You know, now they have a device for swimming pools where it has a silver anode and a copper cathode, and all the water, pool water runs through it. This is on the market. And you don't need to chlorinate if you had that.
It's amazing. Yeah, I know 6 million children under 5 die due to lack of sanitation because their bodies are not, their immune systems haven't developed, and when the cross-contamination happens with latrine water and drinking water, it's a major problem in most third world countries. So I see that your device could really help with
That'd be a
that.
great way to treat water to get rid of the pathogens. You could have a drum and do it in there, and they would clean that all out.
Wow.
And then you could just run it through a sand filter or something to get all the particulate stuff out of it. Yeah, it'd be great. And in the third world nations, this thing would be a godsend. I mean, there's a lot of infection, parasites. I mean, they could have a machine could treat hundreds of people, and it doesn't cost anything but a little bit of electricity and a battery, And my machines all have rechargeable batteries.
We've got about 1 more minute, so one more question.
Just a quick question. What are your voltages, currents, and the time that you expose them for a particular session, for a single session?
Oh, can you repeat that again?
What voltages and what currents
Oh.
do you use, and how long is a typical session?
I'm running about 30 volts, and it draws approximately 30 milliamps.
Okay.
So it's very small. I mean, it doesn't feel like an electrical shock in the water. It has a different sensation. Then I have a pulse circuit. I added that because I found out that helps to break the free radical bonds. It's like a jackhammer. It breaks the bonds faster. So you hear this little clicking in the machine. That's the interrupter to make and break the current.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you
that
use pure DC, or do you use some kind of a rectifier? I mean, do you?
Well, it's a battery, so I don't need a rectifier.
So you use pure DC.
It's already DC.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have a little, adjustable interval timer circuit in there that makes the pulses.
Oh, it's a pulse DC. Is there any?
So it's on, the duty cycle on is about 90% and off 10%.
I see.
Then I've got another one where I made adapters to run the galvanic bath electrodes on a TINS machine,
Oh.
which is FDA approved.
Right.
I just use different electrodes.
And the electrodes you use are silver and copper?
Yeah, silver and copper.
Okay.
And then on the TINS machine, they're stainless steel. See, on the TINS machine, the duty cycle is very small. It's like probably 1 or 2%. It's a very narrow, sharp pulse. It's not going to make much silver. But it does work for pain relief, and it's my cheapest machine. I got one out there on the table. I recommend, my deluxe model has an adjuster, a voltage adjustment on it, because some people put salt in their hot tub, and it sucks the battery down too quick. So I have this flexible cone that I put over the anode, and you put it right down on the body, and then you can adjust the voltage into where it's not biting so hard, and then you can just gradually advance it and keep it firmly down, so then it stops all the bypass current from going through the water directly to the anode from the cathode and draining the battery. And so then I have the economy model doesn't have that in it, but you don't need it. And for most cases, you just use tap water. You don't have to salt the water at all unless it's rainwater, then you have to add a little bit of salt to make it conductive, because rainwater is not conductive.
Well, thank you very much for presenting here. I've actually experienced this several years back when you have put it in the pool out there at the Nativo Lodge way back when.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. I'm glad that you presented here. We're about out of time, so thank you very much, Byington Sims.
So if anybody wants to try this, I'll demonstrate it in the hot tub here at the hotel. And if you'll see me at the social and tell me you want to do it, and after eating a little something, then we'll go out to the hot tub and set it up, and you can try it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Byington Sims.